Well then, I want to talk about Valhalla Rising.
Go ahead.
Okay, but I want to keep it short. So I'm going to try and keep it to 27 sentences.
27 sentences.
Yeah. So that's made up of little notes I've made about the film, or maybe a bit of dialogue, or maybe even just a title if there is one given.
They're key points, milestones.
Key points of the film. So yeah, let's go for it then. So I watched it last night. When did you watch it?
I watched.
You kind of half watched it last night.
Well, I've seen it before, but I half watched it the other week.
Right. I can't remember anything, and I watched it last night.
He's got one eye.
He's got one eye. Yeah.
And he's called that because he's only got one eye.
Yeah, quite nice that as well. But okay, so we've got Christians are dicks. It's black and white. Because what you get is the intro is just a little bit of text that says something about. I should have put it as what I was originally going to put it was something about Christians having a road trip, because it was about if there were men and they worshipped the land. The Christians came with their crucifixes and they drove them away. And I was like, where did they drive them to? But it was they drove the heathens away. So it's basically this little bit of text said the Christians decided to wipe out the pagans, and that was it. And that was the little bit of text that you got. And then we actually get Valhalla Rising in red. So we're getting the titles. And then we've got the subheading Wrath. So that's like chapter 1. Chapter 1. Wrath. And we've got Little Boy Bucket's cagey friend. Because this is where we get the whole film is largely shots of mountains and fog.
That is true.
Just panning tracking shots, and then you'll see occasionally some dude in the shot. In this case, it happens to be a little lad with a bucket.
He does have a bucket and a big. He's got his Fabio blonde hair.
Yeah, he's got a big blonde mop on him. Fuck, I can never remember his name. He's the comedian who's like that.
Greg Davis.
No, the young one. Oh, I say he's young. He's not even that young now. It doesn't matter.
James Acaster?
Yeah, that's who I keep wanting to say, but not him. Josh Widdicombe.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
That would have made it a so much better movie.
Anyway, yeah. So he's got he looks like that, and
it could be him. It's quite an old film.
Yeah.
Well, I think 2009. I think Josh Widdicombe's only 11 years old.
Yeah, maybe it was him then. But anyway, he's carrying his bucket up the hill. And then we see this little. I liked it because they'd chosen silver birch, which is a nice wood, to build these cages. Quite a pretty wood. And in said cage, we find a one-eyed Hannibal sat there, our old Mads Mikkelsen, and then that goes on to scene 2, henna tattoos, and the good long punch-up. So after whatever's happened, because it keeps fucking. You'll see him in the cage, and then it'll be another shot of a lake somewhere 4 hours away. And then...
There's a lot of shots of cold wind blowing furiously, and he does look cold.
Oh, bloody hell yeah! I mean, everyone. I like that because the colour palette is grey and grey. So it makes it look fucking cold, and
it is like a miserable day.
Everyone looks like they're under a really thin fucking sheet with the wind blowing at highest capacity.
It's the best justification for a beard I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You see them and you go, that guy actually needs that beard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it does paint the scene. Like, you don't really need to know much about it in terms of text, but you get from visuals that it's clearly Scandinavia or somewhere like that. You know, it looks Celtic-y. It looks weird. Weird.
But, yeah.
So anyway, they let him out of the cage, and then the little boy sort of just puts these little tattoos of like shit on his back. You don't know why he's doing that. And that
it's a cinnamon swirl, isn't it? It's got a cinnamon swirl on his chest.
So he paints him up, and then he's still tethered. He's got his neck tied to this big fucking rope, and there's 2 lads, and they're beating him up, which leads to scene 3. Mads Mikkelsen, human swingball champ of the world, because they bash him around and he goes flying and stuff like that. But he does a really good bit where it's much like the scene from District Assault on Precinct 13, where he whips the chain around but he whips it around the guy's neck and then does like a running.
Yeah, he probably goes for a run and then pulls back.
Right, yeah. So you hear a proper crunch when his neck broke.
Yeah, because he's fighting the one guy and the other guy just pulls his chain back, and then he goes to run off and the other guy does it. So it's a bit like a Chucker Brothers moment.
Exactly, that's what I mean. He's acting like a human swing ball at this point. he being the ball, because he gets punched around between them.
He has enough, doesn't he? And he just bites the guy's neck off it.
Yeah, I mean it's fucking nuts. It's pretty cool. So that sets up him as being quite handy, as it were. And then I think you get a shot of him being dragged and chained back up. But what you see is that there's like a bit of a repetition there or something. And then he has like these dream sequences or something. So you see him like he's then in a lake, and then he sort of goes under, and then like everything goes red. You know, there's a couple of shots where things just go fucking red for no reason. And his face is covered in blood and stuff, and he has a bit of a nightmare.
Is that where he gets the arrowhead? Is that later on?
That's later on, because then we've got scene 5 repetition of the caged beast. Because this thing happens again and again, so we keep seeing him being chained up and fighting other people, and then going back in the cage and being dragged the same way and being.
I think you see they've got little patches of coins, so they're clearly doing a bet.
Yeah,
like my maniac can beat your maniac.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think where that. I think we see that a little bit. We see that in the first scene actually, because so I had the note betting, and I couldn't figure out what that meant earlier. But yeah, because you see a bit in there where after he has that initial fight, like he puts his hands back together to be tied up. So that's when we get this in this scene. It's the repetition of he's automatically consigned to just be killing people and then getting locked back up and going back into his cage, and we see that over and over again.
Never seen any shops in this film.
No, not at all. But that's so. Then we get that bit, and then there's another bit where we see the scene where he's in the lake, and he puts his head all the way under, and then he finds an arrowhead and he noms it. I like that bit. So then I think there's a shot of, and it'll be interspliced with again more just landscapes and shit like that.
This where he's got the bag on his head.
Maybe, or because he puts. There's a shot of him putting the arrowhead like in his cage kind of thing, like taking it out and secreting it in a bit of rock or something, and then you've got 7. Our God's better than yours, and we can't let him go. So they're basically they say something about obviously they're the Christians, and then they're talking about our God and their gods. Oh no, they're not. They're pagans, aren't they? Because he's saying, they've only got one. We've got loads to pray to. But they're like, we can't let this guy go. He's a nutcase, but we're making money off him, and we need to make the money because that's the only thing that the Christians will listen to, or something like that. So it's kind of like a tiny bit of dialogue where it's like, it sets up that these guys are shady, but are paying their way kind of thing.
Yeah, they know how to exploit the Christians.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, you didn't need much more exposition than that.
No,
just enough.
Just enough
to get by.
Yeah, and then it was question time for Mickelson. Chain gang cattle drive. So there's a bit where they just are like, "Where are you from? What do you do? Who are you? Where'd you come from?"
Is that when he's chained up and he's just not talking to them?
Yeah, he doesn't say a goddamn thing. And then the next scene is they're all they've got their hoods up and they're all got chains between their necks and they're all being herded fucking somewhere. And then that leads into scene 9, escape by Arrowhead. And then Baldy looks gutted. So he does this really cool bit where they're walking and they get to this certain place among the rocks, and he sort of spits out the arrowhead, slices some guy's neck, then grabs that guy's axe, goes for him. It's like a really nice bit of action.
Yeah,
it's like smooth. It's like Batman physics.
I always like that bit. It's because he pulls the axe off and then I think he just jumps backwards and hits the guy in the legs.
Yeah,
and then chops him one in the chest, and the other guy's like, "Oh fuck this, I'm off, I'm out,
yeah,
bye."
Exactly. Yeah, Like, he does fly a couple of times in this film. It's really cool. I don't know if it is him or just a stunt double, but it looked great because it was a nice, quick, like succession of hits on the enemy kind of thing. And then, he gets to a bit. So he's basically killed everyone. The little kids there towards the side, and then there's a guy who's still heckling him. He's tied one of them up.
It's the Buddha-looking bloke. It's the baldy.
It's the bald guy. Yeah. Did he have the big face tattoo as well? Was that him? One of them had
maybe, yeah.
But he's taunted him for ages and just said, talking shit to him. And he just goes up and just pulls his guts out.
It gives him a disemboweling.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It sounds horrible.
Yeah, it was really graphic. It was brilliant. And then we got scene 10, Fueled by Hate, sponsored by Heineken. Head above the rest. So there's a bit where what you're getting is the guys who were betting on him, the guys he's just murdered. It's sort of like a cut back to them talking about him, why they couldn't let him go. Maybe, who is he? Why is he here? Oh, he's fueled by hate. He's because they're talking about the gods will it that he that's his deal. He's clearly going to revenge something. He's got a deal.
He has an agenda.
And then that sort of becomes him taunting One Eye. I guess he still hasn't got like a reference at this point. And then it for some reason it's his dismembered head though, and it's still kind of talking to him or something, and he puts it on a big spike.
I've pierced my head in the spike.
So that was cool. And then I think we get an actual screen text, scene 11, Silent Warrior. And I've just got
chapter 2.
So part 2, yeah, Silent Warrior. And I've just put a question mark. God of War, the video game, maybe at this point, because basically what we've got now is this Scandinavian guy.
But Kratos never shuts the fuck up.
Yeah, this is true. It's the dead opposite. But he's got this big axe, and he's got this little boy in tote now, and that's it. Like, this whole scene is just them just lumping about. So that kind of just meh. And then that leads to 12 Camp Crucifix, and One Eye gets his name. So they just lots of crucifixes and flags with crosses on them, and they come up on this band of people where there's just I think there's a crowd of just naked ladies, like very muddy naked girls, just in a
foxy boxing.
Well, not foxy boxing. They're all huddled together like naked Nixons. Like something like that. You're naked Nixons.
Good name for a band.
Yeah, the Naked Nixons. I like it. But TM, CM, pattern.
Yeah,
that's ours. We're the Naked
I'll bleep it out. They'll never know.
Yeah. So they come across this band of cunts, and I think they say, we know who he is. He killed one of our party leaders down south. Because he shouts to them, "Are you Christians?" And the boy goes, "Yeah." Well, he doesn't. He's Scottish, I think. He's just like, "Oh yeah." That was even worse. I
think he says. He asks him what his name is, and I think he says, "If you tell us your name, you can eat with us or something." But he's like, "His name's One Eye."
Yeah, because he says, "Who are you?"
That's where he's like.
So he says, he said he calls him One Eye.
It's like, you needed a name, and you've only got one eye.
Yeah, because obviously he just kind of communicates with the kid by just
glaring,
half looking at him with one eye. I love it because it's still like it's this sounds like more is happening, but what is it? It's like an hour and a half at least over this film. It's like an hour and 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not very long. It's not 90 minutes.
But these scenes, very long and drawn out. Like it'll be like 2 minutes of just. And then dialogue. I quite like it.
Yeah. It never felt too long though. Like the scenes, they didn't drag out. It was like, I enjoyed watching all the horribly cold looking environments.
Yeah, it looked nice.
I think it is all shot in the Highlands.
Yeah, if you'd have put some like Enya near it or something, it would have been very relaxing.
Sail away, sail away.
And then
right, there's a YouTube video I've got to make. Coming this Christmas. Sail away.
All right then. Scene 13. Jerusalem sounds pretty good. And revenge isn't all it's cracked up to be. So for some reason, they're like, okay, yeah, this guy's fearsome. Instead of attacking him and us getting killed, they're going to convince him to go to Jerusalem on a crusade with them. And they're like, oh, there's loads of fucking treasures, and it'll be paradise once we euthanize and cleanse the
lots of flatbread.
Yeah, flatbread. Woo! We're gonna make pizza.
Yeah, chapatis.
Yeah. And they basically somehow like convince him to go there because one of the guys, if he's a priest, if that's what he is, starts talking to him, and he's like, basically, revenge isn't all it's cracked up to be, but what we're doing is holy and it's for Christ. So if you come with us, you'll be redeemed, and your soul will be saved, and yada yada yada. And they say to the kid, like, what about you? And he's like, I want to go home. And they're like, and where's that? And he's like, don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So they're like, okay, fuck it, we'll go with you.
Get in the boat.
Number 14, the text, part 3, Men of God. Voyage of the Damned.
This is
where they're on a boat.
In the Misty River.
Yeah, Misty River. And that's you can't see shit. It's quite nice because it's kind of like nice orangey, reddy hues and stuff like that. But it's just them on a boat, quite a small boat. I wouldn't want to go on the open sea in that, to be honest. And they're just surrounded by mist.
It's like the start of Hellblade when she pulls up on the shore.
And it basically goes on for a long time, and there's sort of a bit of back and forth, and it seems to be jumping through time and stuff. Oh right, okay. Sorry, I think it was telling me to please turn over. It's P&O. So sorry. Number 15, P&O Purgatory. Salty beverages and fly tipping.
Not fly tipping.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Out of all things.
Well, yeah, it's kind of fly tipping. So there's much more the same. Lots of fog and not much happening. One of the guys decides he's just going to eat. Fuck it. He's going to drink some of the salt water.
Oh yeah, I do remember this.
So he starts drinking that, and one of the guys is like, "You're gonna die. You're gonna die." And then there's lots of laughing. And then, shockingly, one of them dies. Probably that guy. And then, so they wrap him up and they chuck him off the boat. So that's the fly tipping. They bury him at sea.
Did they learn nothing from The Simpsons, where Homer Simpson's drinking the water in the dinghy?
Yeah,
because he's used all the tap water to clean his socks.
I love that.
That is a good episode.
Yeah. So then, number 16, don't mess with a kid. Freshwater miracle. So there's a bit where they're all sort of slumped down, and at this point these guys are going nuts, and they're blaming it all on the kid. They're like, he's a curse. He has to be a curse. We've got to kill the kid. It's the only way we're going to get out of this hell, this fog. And one of the guys is like, all right then, I'll do that. And he jumps up, and he sort of stealths it over, and then just gets immediately taken out by Mads, who's having none of his shit.
None of that.
Take it away. So he kicks his ass, and I think there's a long pause there where the other guys are like, all right, and they sort of put their weapons down. They're like,
wasn't my idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to keep rowing.
So then that kind of all dies down again. Then we get, this is when it gets complicated, number 17, part 4, the Holy Land, upstream. So this is where after everyone's settled down, Mads goes and takes a glass and puts it in the sea and drinks from it. And the guy's like, you're going to die. And he's like, yeah. And he just keeps drinking it. And the guy's like, what the fuck? So he offers it to him. and he starts screaming. He's like, "It's fresh water! No, it's fresh water!" And they'll go crazy for a second, and then they'll start drinking it and stuff. And I was like, I couldn't tell. Is it actually not fresh water? And they're all just going batshit now.
Yeah, and he can drink
because they think the salt water is actually fresh water because someone else drank it.
Very possibly.
But no, it turns out it was fresh water. So they get to this place. They still can't see shit, but they've discovered they're on fresh water. So they must be in a stream somewhere.
Because isn't there a bit... Doesn't he lean over the boat and stick his head in it? Or am I just misremembering from the scene earlier where he's having a nice bath?
It might be the nice bath, to be honest. There are more people descending into water throughout. But yeah, they managed to get there. Oh, yeah, it happens later, right? And they sort of wash up on this fucking place.
They do the washing up.
They wash up on the shore of this place, and they sort of have a little mooch around, which leads to number 18. Through forests and fields, dead bodies get bunk beds. So this is where they sort of have a little mooch around, and they're all going very tentative. And then they come out in this little semi-clearing, and there's all these little wooden structures, and they've all got dead bodies on them. So they look like little funeral pyres, but they haven't been sort of lit or anything. They've just been let to sort of kind of rot in place on these things. So the Christians are like, and I think, ooh, yeah.
We're not on chapter 5 yet, are we?
No,
Part 5.
Still 4. So they just sort of have a walk around. Sure.
Have a Cockney walkabout.
Cockney walkabout, jutting their elbows about, yeah. But at this point, I think one of them, they kind of like, I want to say set up a camp, but they kind of do. They sort of like, they all sort of sit around in various places for a bit.
Don't they meet the weird red, skleekly laughing man?
No, he later, because this is what one of them is just sat there, and he kind of disappears, and then this is why we've got the scene here. Oh Christ almighty! Did somebody lose a sword? Lassie come home, because Mads turns up with a sword and like chucks it down, and they're like, "Oh, that's Grundfar's sword," or whatever. I don't know fucking names. And they're like, where did you get it? One eye? Where was it?
Tuck shop.
And then he's just staring off. He's just like giving it that, just staring off into the distance with his one. So you can't even see where he's looking because it's shooting and showing you the dead eye. So it's like, come on, get up and go and look round the other side. You'll see where he's looking. So it becomes a bit of like, which way? Where is he, Lassie? He fell down a hole and he lost his sword. So yeah, and then I think they just go, all right, well, put it down somewhere, and if he finds it, it's God's will. That's what he says. If he finds his sword again, it's God's will. We're going to chip off on the lake again, which leads to number 20, the Lake of Sudden Arrows, because they're boating along, and just like it's very calm, and all of a sudden it's just for Jesus, and one of the guys is like and he's been shot with an arrow, and they're like, okay, so they start paddling towards the thing, but one of the guys is just like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up, and it's like, but he's been shot with an arrow. Like, I don't think you're gonna let he's not gonna do that.
Yeah, so the point is that they're not being allowed to leave.
Yeah, so that leads to 21, part 5, hell.
Yeah.
Cleanse the shores for Jesus. So basically they decide to put up a little wooden crucifix. They put one of those up and they start praying and stuff, and they all start kind of freaking out a little bit now, because they realise there's one less of them, and I think one of them starts having a bit of a go at him, and he's like, you promised us fucking riches and a new Jerusalem and all this lot. And he's like,
but he's led us to hell, basically.
You've led us to hell, and he's brought us here, and all this lot, and the other. And the guy's like, right, settle down. Look, this place is virgin soil. It's untapped. Once we'll be kings of this place once we're done. Yada yada yada. And then that leads to 22. Yeah, booze break. And the long dark tea time of the soul. In brackets, rock stacking and butt sex.
Oh wow, yeah, this is the
So it becomes like I can again. It's one of those weird ones, but some of them are having a little argument, and one guy gives the other one a bit of this like bottle of wine or whatever, and he has a bit of that, and then they give a bit to Mads, and everyone sort of has it, and it looks. I was like, oh, they're doing like a communion, like a Christian thing, But everybody has a glass of the red. It's probably Buckfast by the looks of it, because after that they all just lose it a bit. And it was at this point, like, I mean, it was a little bit anyway, but this started to make me think of...
Field in England?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go. Yeah. I'm glad you had the same thought.
Yeah, just thematically, it's kind of...
It's that with a tiny little bit of kill list in there, just that British kind of...
I guess so. It kind of went visceral at this point.
It goes very trippy. What do they call it? Like an acid trip, psychedelic.
Yeah, I kind of guess so, but it's... Yeah, it's very, I would say fractal, but fractured or whatever, because it's cuts of all of the guys in the film doing various things. Like for some reason, Mads Mikkelsen decides he's going to go and he goes and grabs a rock and just decides he's going to start stacking.
Well, his stacking of the rocks is basically building himself a human control pad because he's controlling the rapist man.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I had to read a synopsis. Well, I read one a while ago, and apparently that's what he's doing. He's kind of like doing some sort of possession spell. But he's...
I just thought they all had their own thing going.
I think he's meant to be dictating what's going on by placing these rocks together. Because as he's putting the last one on, that's when I think he gets it up the bum. Yeah, he's meant to be basically manipulating what's going on. Somehow.
Well, I don't know, because I saw it as a weird thing, because it was... For one, you had like one guy was just he was knelt down by the river and he starts stabbing it, and he starts stabbing into the dirt. The other guy, the rapist, he's just sort of sat down like screaming or something. The main protagonist is sort of like wading out into the water and like he's praying, and Mads is stacking rocks, and then even the kid has some at this point.
Oh,
even the kid has a little drink, but he kind of just goes off and just sort of sits somewhere.
I don't remember what the kid's doing at this point.
He just goes. He's watching everything. So he's like, the fly on the wall at this point. And it's horrible because what it builds to that fever pitch where this rapist guy comes in and just. The guy who was face down in the mud, he just cuts it. It was like it looked like he was going to kill him because he's got his knife out, but then it's clear that he just like cut his trousers off or whatever, and ends up bumming him very violently. So that was all a bit like I don't know about that. And then that kind of
don't know about that.
I don't know about that. But everyone sort of seems to have this long, dark, introspective kind of trip or something. It seemed to be like that. And then the next scene, I guess I thought it was the guy who had lost his sword, but it wasn't. The guy turns up. Then it's like the next day, the next morning, or whatever.
The hangover.
Yeah, the hangover. Muddy friends return. Take to the woods, because I guess it was the guy who got butt raped, but he's got like this brown. It's the mud has dried or whatever, and he's completely like covered in this brown. So it looks tribally because there's actually been some glyphs sort of marked out on him. So I didn't really understand who that was.
The guy with the beard.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's a new person. I don't know if he's one of them. I think he's just there.
Well, I thought it was the guy that got bum raped because he was in the mud. Because it's the only other one of them. Because the other guy that lost his sword and disappeared, it's not him because he comes back a little bit later. But anyway, he turns up and he's like, he's saying this, yada yada, and they're like, you mean you can hear one eye? And he's like, yeah. He's saying you're in hell and all this lot, and he's from hell, and he said he'd bring you back here, and yada yada yada, and he goes a little bit weird and mental, and then he ends up saying something like, I think it's the kid. He's like, we've got to get out of here or something. Like he's interpreting for him again. But basically Mads ends up leading the kid off into the woods, and then as they're going off, there's like the other character is like the possibly the only other redeemable character in the situation is this old guy who's like the second to the main preacher or whatever. And he says, we should go to the woods. We should follow him. We should go where he's going. And the guy's like, all right, okay. Goes to give him a hug and ends up, and he's like, oh, you're going to betray me? And he stabs it. Yeah, betray me. And he stabs him in the back, quite literally.
Take that, see?
Yeah, and he's like, well, go on then. If you're going to stab me in the back, there you go. I've stabbed you. You can go and follow him. So he does. So that comes to the next one, part 6, the sacrifice, scene 24, which is pretty much that. So, that's it. Lots of scenes of like all the way through this. You get shots of like Mads's red face in silhouette and stuff.
Yeah, it's like the sky behind him, isn't it?
It's very intercut with all of this. So
it looks like a raven almost.
Yeah, this scene is that basically. Lots of that, and then them walking up this hill very slowly, and this is where you see part. Oh, is it? Arrows for the preacher. That's it. So the guy again, for some reason, he's back in the water, praying, and yada yada. And he gets like the arrow sounds are so good. He gets like 5 arrows in the back, like and so it just goes and sort of drowns. It's fucking awesome. And so you've got shots of like Mads and the boy walking up this going up to the top of a mountain basically, with the guy who got stabbed slowly catching up to them. And then I think we've got number 26, fathers and sons together in death. Why follow the one eye? So at this point the guy's just turned up. So it's the guy who lost his sword from before, who's the son of the preacher who just got shot with arrows.
Son of the preacher man.
He's like, where's my sword? But he's like, why are you following this guy? And there's a bit of a conversation about how the guy who's just been stabbed, the reason he was going to Jerusalem in the first place was to try and be with his son who died in the war in Jerusalem in the first place. So that's why he was going with him. And then this guy was following his dad, who was the preacher. He just wanted to follow him. So there's this whole thing about fathers following sons, and sort of.
It's the blind leading the blind, isn't it? Almost being led down the wrong path.
Yeah,
and earlier a guy got led up the garden path, didn't he?
Yes, exactly. So at that point, I think this guy's like, well, I've got to go back to my dad. I'm going back down the hill, basically. And then, Mads and the boy continue to walk off. But at this point, the guy who's been stabbed, it's too much for him. So he sort of sits there, but it's quite a nice cut. And I've called that one Lord of the Flies, Redemption's Light. Because at that point, he's just sort of sat there. The flies start come to signify that he's dying. But as it tracks out, you do see like kind of a shaft of light above him. So I think if anything, and they keep alluding to the fact that they're in hell or they're in purgatory or something like that. Out of anything, maybe that shows that his character wasn't.
Yeah, he's going up.
Yeah. If anything,
he's getting his pass.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads to scene 28, banging headache. Letting go the little boy's lament. Because at this point, they get to. They've got to the top of the fucking mountain and they've seen the sea line and they're like, right, we're gonna go make a boat or some shit. To me, it for some reason, it reminded me of like Battle Royale. Like, right, they when they get to the edge of it and they're like, right, we're gonna get out of here or we're gonna do something. And they get there and the boy's like, yeah, seawater, yeah. I'm sure he's Scottish. I don't know why I've got this voice.
He's not Geordie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Seawater.
Gotta get on a boat.
Hope it's not got a hole in it.
A hole in the boat, I put my finger in it. That went everywhere. Anyway, so as it kind of looks back across the shoreline, you can see that there's all these, like, for want of lack of description, like Native American kind of looking, in terms of like. They've got mud all over them, scribed out and stuff, but in terms of their attire, and they've all got like clubs and stuff.
It's the tribe from Ace Ventura 2.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But they've all got these big, like, shillelaghs, these big, like, knobbly eating sticks. They've got eating sticks.
Eating sticks. It looks like the thing that you put a tennis ball in to throw for the dog. It's like a bigger version of that.
Oh, okay. I have neither a dog or a hitting stick. So I don't know.
Or a tennis ball.
Or a tennis ball. Yeah. Or arms. Anyway, so...
What?
Mads kind of sees these guys, and I guess it's kind of a thing where he's like, right, I'm still sticking up for this kid. And he walks towards them with his axe, but drops it, and then goes into the middle of them and sort of just kneels down. To which point, they all gather around and beat 7 shades of shit out of him.
They club him to putty, don't they?
They really do. Yeah. But you see a lot of... I think you see cuts... There's a lot of foreshadowing in this film, so we've actually already seen parts of this scene earlier. There's lots of scenes where we've seen like a vision where Mads will be pointing, but later in the film it's actually revealed to be the same scene, but it's another guy doing it, or is echoing in it. So it's a very foreshadowing film. You see these scenes.
It's like he's making the future happen, or he's
So we see a bit of the same kind of footage, but then so we basically see Mads getting beaten with these things, or shots of these hitting sticks coming down. And I think a lot more of, like, him in the water and the fog and yada yada yada. And they stop and they kind of look at the kid, but they just bugger off them. So it's kind of like, you can see why the scene is called Sacrifice, because they've kind of let him go because of what Mads has done, as a show of, he dropped his weapons and surrendered so that maybe that would happen. And then it's like, fade to black. But there's another bit where it's just his face again comes in over the mist, side angle, and that's it. Scene 29, to Oliver winding, and that was it. Because that's what you get. And I don't know why it was for him.
I guess because it was made by Nicholas Winding Refn, so I'm guessing his dad died.
Okay. It seems like a very weird film to dedicate to anyone,
especially someone who might have been dead.
Unless
he was a really bad man.
It
was, I'm going to make this film so you might get into heaven.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's that film. in however many sentences I said. Was it 29? It was 29.
29.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh.